the truth is heavy. Archangel Michael admits message was delayed for your protection. But now you must face it. My beloved child, this message is something that was intentionally held back from you for a long time. This is not because heaven doubted you. This was delayed because if you heard this truth earlier, you would not have been emotionally, spiritually, or mentally ready to carry it, because what you are about to hear is heavier than anything you have ever been told before. This is not a normal message. This is not a simple warning. This is a revelation that shifts the next chapters of your destiny permanently. Archangel Michael admits this truth was delayed because protection was required first. There were spiritual forces around you that would have tried to block this. There were invisible hands that wanted to destroy this knowledge before it reached your ears. There were energies waiting to sabotage this before you could fully receive it. That is why heaven guarded this message until the timing aligned perfectly with your emotional strength. Today you are entering a season where everything that was hidden behind curtain starts stepping out into the light. Not slowly, not quietly, not gently. It will come like a wave that forces reality to rearrange around you. And this wave will push truth forward. Whether people around you are ready for it or not, they cannot stop this shift. There is something you noticed recently inside your heart, but you ignored it. You shrugged it off, thinking you were just overthinking. But that wasn't imagination. That was the earliest sign of this delayed truth beginning to move toward you. You felt the shift before anyone said a word. You felt the emotional vibration of something bigger building behind the scenes. And you sensed an unseen momentum starting to prepare you for what is coming now. There is a reason people suddenly became distant. There is a reason someone you trusted froze emotionally without explanation. There is a reason certain conversations suddenly ended midway. There is a reason someone avoided your gaze, even though they used to confidently look directly at you. You thought it was mood swings. You thought it was stress. You thought it was normal human behavior. These were spiritual side effects of a hidden truth that was about to break free. They were reacting to an energy shift that you were chosen to carry. And, without even knowing, they sense that whatever happens next in your timeline, you are about to rise above the version of yourself they always believed would stay below them. Heaven protected you because this truth would have crushed you earlier. You would have doubted yourself. You would have believed the opinions of those who misjudged you. You would have believed the lies spoken about your destiny. You would have surrendered to the pressure of other people's expectations. But now you are stronger than you were last month. You are more spiritually sharp than you were last week. You are more emotionally aware than you were yesterday. That is why Archangel Michael waited. This truth needed you to be aligned with courage, not fear. This revelation needed you to have the emotional muscle to carry the weight without collapsing. And now that you reached that inner strength, heaven is letting the seal break. You are stepping into a timeline where the people who underestimated you will be forced to confront the reality. They refuse to believe you are chosen for something rare. You carry a purpose that is not common. You hold a destiny that is not average, and the things you are about to do will not be forgettable. You were never rejected. You were redirected. You were not delayed to make you suffer. You were delayed because your breakthrough needed maturity in your hands, not desperation. Somebody once tried to ruin your name in silence. Somebody once tried to paint a false version of you because they feared your growth. Somebody once tried to stop your elevation before it ever started. Archangel Michael saw it. Heaven heard it. Your spirit felt it. But instead of punishing them instantly, heaven paused everything so that your protection would be stronger than their attack. You were hidden, not because you were weak. You were hidden because heaven needed you invisible. While your foundation was built brick by brick, secretly, quietly, untouchably, now those same people are about to witness the truth they were never prepared for. They thought you would remain beneath them forever. They thought you would never rise above your old version. They thought your pain was permanent. But the truth is heavier than their imagination. Your evolution has already started. Your destiny is already breathing. Your breakthrough timeline is already activated. And what is coming next will not just shock them, it will shock you. Stay aligned. Stay focused. Stay present in this shift. Because the next part of this message is where the revelation begins to expose names, situations, memories, and hidden patterns you never connected before. Is where the delayed truth starts unfolding into clarity. This is where the emotional weight of reality becomes impossible to escape. And this is where you finally understand why heaven protected this truth from reaching you earlier. Next revelation. My beloved child. This next part files this with something you never saw coming. Because this truth is not just about what people thought of you, but what they tried to shape around your future without your permission. There are conversations that happened behind your back that were not accidental. There were assumptions made about you that were not innocent. There were silent agreements formed by certain souls who believed they had already figured you out before your destiny even started forming. And this is the reason the timing matters so much. If this revelation was handed to the version of you from 6 months ago, you would have responded emotionally instead of strategically. You would have reacted impulsively instead of staying aligned to who you are becoming. The truth is heavy because this message is not just revelation. This message is exposure. Exposure of the patterns. Exposure of the energetic connections. Exposure of the emotional contracts you subconsciously formed with people who were never supposed to have long-term access to you. There are certain individuals who believe that your confidence would always be fragile. There are certain people who believed you would always remain dependent on validation. There are people who thought you would always seek approval before making any big decision. But it was in silence, in isolation, behind closed doors, that your spirit began receiving strength from places they will never understand. They think emotional isolation defeated you. They don't know emotional isolation built you. When heaven delayed this truth, it was because the version of you back then was too willing to defend your innocence. You would have wasted time trying to convince people of your purity and your intentions. You would have tried to prove your worth to someone who had already made up their mind against you. You would have spent emotional energy explaining your heart to people who never deserved to hold it. But now your spirit has changed. Your silence is no longer submission. Your silence is strategy. Your silence is growth. And now, when this truth lands instead of collapsing, you are ready to rise. This message today is a sign that the next chapters of your life are not going to unfold quietly. Everything ahead is loud. Everything ahead is bold. Everything ahead is reversible. You are not entering a season of gradual slow shifts. You are entering a season of sudden transformation. One moment you will look around and nothing appears changed, but the very next moment, everything will feel different. Opportunities will move faster. People will approach differently. Connections will attach differently. This is the kind of shift that forces others to admit they misread your potential. And this is the kind of shift that reveals how heavily heaven was protecting you when you thought you were being ignored. The truth that is arriving now is connected to a realization someone around you recently had. This person did not expect your energy to evolve this quickly. They did not expect your emotional strength to reach this level. They did not expect your spiritual authority to activate like this. They believed they still had power over your emotional direction. They believed you would still respond to them the way you used to. But the future version of you is already here, already breathing, already growing, already speaking through your intuition. Archangel Michael delayed this message because the divine system needed this specific person to underestimate you one last time. Your underestimation is what activates the reversal. Pay close attention to the next days, because someone you did not expect is about to show discomfort with your rising confidence. They will not say it directly. They will not express it openly, but their body language will shift. Your silence will shift. The energy between you and them will shift. This person will realize something frightening to them, but empowering to you. They cannot stop your elevation anymore. They lost the position of influence they once believed they had. They lost access to your vulnerability. They lost access to the version of you who feared losing people more than losing your purpose. And now this is where the truth begins to unfold into final form. You were never behind. You were always being positioned. People assumed time delayed you, but time was preparing the world for you. When people pulled away from you, heaven was removing distractions. When conversations died, suddenly heaven was removing emotional attachments. When certain opportunities disappeared, heaven was filtering out paths that would have slowed your breakthrough. Now, here's something extremely important to understand for this next phase. Your alignment ahead requires you to guard your emotional bandwidth. Not everything deserves reaction. Not every comment deserves analysis. Not every entity deserves connection. Your emotional attention must now be treated like currency. You must invest it where it multiplies, not where it drains. Because the truth unfolding next is bigger than just revelation. It will reassign you into a higher spiritual identity. You are not meant to fit into rooms you used to feel comfortable in. You are meant to enter rooms you never believed would open for you. The delay was the divine system recalibrating those rooms. So the moment you enter, nothing can threaten what belongs to you. Your destiny is not fragile. Your truth is not weak. Your spirit is no longer breakable. This delayed message is now the activation of an irreversible shift. You will see signs. You will hear confirmations. You will feel synchronicities. Heaven will not whisper this cycle or broadcast it. The path ahead will not require you to chase anything. You will simply align, and what belongs to you will move toward you, because it recognizes its rightful owner. Before this part ends, there is one final instruction that amplifies this timeline flow. Share this message with others who feel spiritually stuck. Comment your alignment whenever you release old emotional patterns, and subscribe to keep yourself receiving continuous divine narration without interruption. This is how you keep your frequency aligned with heaven's voice instead of the world's noise. Because the story unfolding in front of you now cannot be diluted. It cannot be slowed down. It cannot be redirected. The next part will reveal the exact emotional reason heaven protected this truth until now, and why certain souls were blocked at specific moments from accessing you again. Get ready for deeper revelation that connects to your personal path ahead. Don't skip, my beloved child. This part begins with the most intense emotional truth of all. Heaven did not delay this message to punish you. Heaven delayed it because this truth had to land at the exact time your heart was strong enough to hear it, without collapsing into old wounds again. In the past, if this revelation came to you, you would have broken inside. You would have questioned your worth again. You would have doubted your purpose again. You would have looked back at every moment of pain and believed that those disappointments were permanent. But now you can hold this truth without allowing it to destroy you. Instead, this truth is now going to liberate you from every old emotional chain that tried to convince you you were not chosen. The real truth is this: someone was emotionally intimidated by what your future was always destined to become. And this person intentionally tried to keep you in a small version of yourself. Not because they hated you, not because they wanted to destroy you, but because they feared what you would become if you healed. They feared the moment you realized your authentic value. They feared the moment you discovered how rare your destiny actually is. They feared the moment your soul returned back to its anointed alignment. And deep inside, they believed if they delayed your inner growth long enough, you would settle for less permanently. This is the toxic cycle heaven blocked. This is the emotional trap heaven stopped. This is why Archangel Michael delayed this revelation until now. Because if you heard all this before your inner breakthrough happened, you would have gone back to them. You would have forgiven them prematurely. You would have handed them emotional access they were never meant to handle. You would have allowed them to shape your sense of identity again. But now your perspective is stable, your intuition is sharp, your emotional reflexes are healed. And because of that, you now see this pattern clearly. This next truth is heavier than the previous ones. Because this was not random. This was karmic. This was spiritual. Written in the blueprint of your journey before you were even born. There were certain people assigned to your life not to stay forever, but to trigger your awakening. There were individuals who entered your timeline not to love you long term, but to pull you away from environments and identities that would have destroyed the powerful version of you that exists today. And once their assignment was complete, they were removed. You interpreted that removal as abandonment. Heaven defined that removal as protection. This is why this revelation arrives now, because you finally reached the emotional level where you can understand this without pain and without attachment. Spiritually, your destiny was always too large to remain in the same emotional rooms where you once felt small. You were meant to expand. You were meant to devolve. You were meant to rise above the frequency that once controlled your emotions. And now you are in the beginning phase of stepping into a reality where your future becomes bigger than your trauma, where your purpose becomes heavier than your heartbreak, where your spirit becomes stronger than any storm meant to break you. There is someone watching your silence right now, and they are confused. They do not understand how you are not emotionally reacting like before. They do not understand how you are not breaking under pressure like before. They do not understand how you suddenly look emotionally unavailable to anything that once strained you. They are shocked because they believe they already saw your limits, but you have surpassed a point where their influence can no longer shrink you. The energy around you right now is not the same energy you lived in last year. You are in a new frequency range now. You are thinking differently. You are perceiving differently. You are manifesting differently. You are attracting differently. You are responding differently. And because of this, your entire life trajectory is shifting at an accelerated speed. People who once assumed they could handle you emotionally are now losing access to your inner world. People who once thought they understood your weaknesses are now realizing you are no longer fragile. And this is terrifying for those who benefited from your doubts. Your power did not come from anger. Your power does I come from revenge. Your power comes from clarity, and clarity kills manipulation instantly. Now listen carefully, because this is where the deeper revelation begins. Heaven delayed this truth because they knew that the moment you heard it, your intuition would activate a new self-respect code inside you. And once this code activates, your future can no longer be controlled by external forces. Your destiny becomes internally driven. Your decisions will no longer be powered by trauma. They will be powered by purpose. Your vision will no longer be powered by emotion. It will be powered by divine strategy. And your heart will no longer chase love from people who do not know how to love deeply. You will attract connections that match your purpose, not connections that feed your loneliness. You are not meant to chase. You are meant to align. You are not meant to beg. You are meant to elevate. You are not meant to stay small to make others comfortable. You are meant to grow so large that the world is forced to adjust to you. This new identity cannot be reversed. This new chapter cannot be blocked. This new frequency cannot be diluted. You are not entering a new season. You are entering a new dimension of self-awareness. And in the next part, you will understand exactly why you were spiritually isolated before this message was allowed to reach you. There is a reason you shrank. There is a reason your heart detached. There is a reason certain bonds ended suddenly. This next part reveals what heaven was protecting you from specifically, and who would have sabotaged your destiny if this truth came before time aligned. Watch the next revelation. My beloved child, this part begins with a truth you never fully connected before. But when you hear it now, everything inside you will click instantly. The isolation you went through was not accidental. It was not punishment. It was not emptiness. It was a divine quarantine. Heaven had to put you in a spiritual separation chamber so that no one could manipulate your direction. While this hidden truth was being prepared for release, you were placed in emotional distance so that the people who once had emotional influence over you could not whisper their fears into your future. You were separated because your spirit was being recalibrated to a frequency that your old environment could not survive inside. This is why communication suddenly broke with certain individuals. This is why you stopped feeling emotionally safe around people you used to trust. This is why you woke up one day and realized certain connections no longer aligned with your spirit anymore. In your isolation, a quiet revolution happened inside you. Your emotions began healing without needing validation. Your identity began stabilizing without needing approval. Your purpose began strengthening without needing confirmation. Heaven watched you go through a silent evolution that no witness could see because you were growing roots beneath the surface. And now that the roots are unshakable, now that the foundation is unbreakable, this heavy truth has finally been authorized to be revealed. The people who once tried to shape your future do not have access to influence it anymore. They cannot manipulate you anymore. They cannot emotionally trap you anymore. They cannot guide your narrative anymore. You now move with spiritual independence. This is where the truth begins to reveal the next phase. Heaven was protecting you from the version of yourself that would have tolerated disrespect in exchange for emotional connection. You used to believe losing someone meant losing stability. You used to fear release because you thought release meant punishment. But now you understand release was liberation. Release was alignment. Release was correction. The more you were isolated, the more you were transformed. And when heaven saw that transformation was complete, that is when the seal over this message was finally broken. This next part is extremely important. Someone expected you to return to them emotionally. They were certain you would come back the moment your loneliness peaked. They believed you would text again. They believed you would call again. They believed you would explain yourself again. But you didn't. Your silence didn't break this time. And because your silence stayed strong, their power over your emotional center collapsed. You have no idea how shocked they were internally when they realized you were no longer emotionally dependent. They never expected you to detach with this level of spiritual clarity. Your new strength is not loud. It is quiet but powerful. It is calm but unstoppable. It is silent but undeniable. And this new version of you is the one Archangel Michael waited for, because only this version of you could be trusted with the truth that is going to reshape the next direction of your destiny. You are going to receive opportunities soon that require emotional discipline. You are going to receive connections soon that require emotional maturity. You are going to receive breakthroughs soon that require you to protect your peace like it is currency. The old version of you would have lost these blessings by trying to keep everyone happy. The new version of you will protect these blessings by honoring your alignment above all. You are entering a timeline where your elevation will expose a lot. People who claim to support you will suddenly reveal jealousy. People who pretended to be disconnected from you will suddenly crave access again. People who judge you before will suddenly respect you silently, because they will feel the shift around you before even understanding the reason behind it. This energy shift is so heavy that even those who try to block you will be forced to face the truth. They cannot stop what heaven has scheduled for you. Now listen very carefully before this part ends, because this is not just revelation. This is instruction. You must protect your emotional environment now, the same way heaven protected you earlier. Do not let anyone who drains you access your inner world casually. Do not allow anyone who takes without giving to sit close to your heart. Do not let anyone reconnect with you simply because they fear your elevation. You are not going backwards anymore. You are not letting old patterns regain authority over your identity. You are not letting weak intentions shape your next season. This revelation is not just information. This revelation is activation. Before this part ends, as your script narrator, I will speak this final engagement point because this is where your voice as a creator matters. Share this message with those who feel stuck in the same emotional cycle you escaped. Comment your alignment not for attention, but to anchor your identity into this new phase. Subscribe so you never lose the spiritual direction needs to maintain this growth. This journey forward requires consistent alignment, not one-time clarity. The next part will reveal the exact emotional reason why this truth was shielded from you. What was spiritually at stake if this message arrived too early, and the specific type of person whose intentions would have destroyed this blessing before it matured. Watch the next revelation. My beloved child, this part begins with the deepest layer of why this truth was sealed for so long. There was a person in your past who carried an emotional effect over you without even trying. When they spoke, you absorbed it deeply. When they withdrew, you felt it painfully. When they reacted, your spirit shifted instantly. That person had access to the part of you that was still learning self-value. They had access to the version of you that still believed love required proving anything. They had access to the side of you that didn't yet recognize your divine worth. And if this truth had arrived earlier, before you learned self-worth from within, this person would have shaped your life direction in a way that would have blocked your next destiny chapter completely. Heaven delayed this message because if you learned this heavy truth while still emotionally tied to that person, you would have interpreted it through fear, not clarity. You would have run back to old emotional patterns, thinking that past comfort was safety. You would have tried to rebuild something that was not aligned with what your soul was meant to attract in the future. You would have attached your entire purpose to a person who was not destined to walk into your higher blessing dimension with you. There are certain souls that were used as introductions, not destinations. There are certain souls that were meant to wake you up, not walk with you forever. And for a long time, you believed losing them meant losing something important. But what you didn't realize then was that heaven was preventing you from losing yourself. This truth arrives at a moment where you finally healed enough to understand that not all love is meant to continue. Some love is meant to transform you. Some love is meant to push you into your evolution. Some love is meant to end so that the real divine alignment can begin. And this is the heavy part heaven saw. That emotional connection would have suffocated your growth if it continued. You would have shrunk yourself to keep them comfortable. You would have limited your dreams to protect their insecurities. You would have avoided your higher calling because you were afraid to outgrow the identity they were familiar with. Heaven stepped in because the timeline was not your destiny. Archangel Michael waited for you to reach emotional detachment because the next part of your path requires an identity that stands alone before it stands with anyone. This is why your intuition became stronger. This is why your spirit became more selective. This is why you stopped feeling guilty for walking away from connections that were draining you silently. You were training for this moment of truth. Now the revelation begins unfolding into the next form. Heaven was protecting you not just from a person, but from a version of yourself that was too available for people who were unsure of you. You used to give access to your heart based on potential. You used to sacrifice your boundaries just to keep harmony. You used to carry emotional weight that wasn't yours because you didn't want others to feel abandoned. And heaven needed to break this pattern before your destiny chapter activated, because the blessing ahead requires emotional precision, not emotional sacrifice. The next season of your life is not going to be fueled by desperation. It will be fueled by divine alignment. You will not chase approval. You will not beg for clarity. You will not settle for energy that confuses you. Your path ahead is divinely coded with people who match your frequency, not drain it connections that empower your purpose, not distract from it. The truth is heavy because this message introduces the reality that you were always meant to. Step into a life where you don't fit inside limited emotional roles anymore. This delayed revelation is the beginning of a recalibrated timeline where you attract people who see your worth without you proving anything, where you gain opportunities that align naturally with your purpose, not opportunities that require you to become someone else to fit inside them. Where you step into a future where your voice, your energy, your gifts, and your calling finally become visible without needing permission from anyone. Now, here is something even deeper. Someone who once thought your silence meant weakness has started realizing you detached because you evolved. They thought you were broken. They thought you were emotionally collapsing. They thought you were confused and lost. But what they didn't understand at the time was that heaven was working in silence, preparing your next chapter with a foundation that doesn't require their validation to stand strong. And now that your energy has shifted, they feel the difference. They feel the distance. They feel the loss of access. You are entering the era where people who once underestimated your spiritual strength will begin secretly admiring your emotional discipline. They will witness your rise and pretend not to notice. But internally, they will know that they had a chance to stand with you and did value it. And now, they cannot return because the version of you alive today will never shrink again to make others comfortable. Your emotional intelligence has matured into a force. Your intuition has become a weapon. Your clarity has become your protection. Your peace has become your power. And what is coming next is not about revenge. What is coming next is about alignment with the life heaven always wrote for you before you were even born into this world. The truth is heavy because you now understand this. Tenting tire waiting period was divine architecture. Heaven had to restructure your emotional blueprint before your destiny activated, and now you carry a maturity that cannot be manipulated anymore. A clarity that cannot be stolen. A sense of self that cannot be broken by external influence. My beloved child, this part begins with the moment everything silently shifted long before you were aware of it. The truth is your destiny did not change on the day you felt broken. Your destiny did not shift on the day you cried. Your destiny did not activate on the day someone walked out. Your destiny actually shifted on the exact day you finally stopped trying to force anything that was not aligned. A day when you emotionally surrendered, not in weakness, but in acceptance, was the moment heaven stepped in. It was the day the divine system finally gained full permission to move you into the dimension written for you before your birth. And from that moment onward, your path stopped being affected by people's opinions, betrayal, saint judgments, or emotional withdrawal. From the day forward, your journey became spiritually encrypted. You didn't realize it because it didn't feel powerful at first. It felt like emptiness. They felt like numbness. It felt like you had nothing left to fight for. But that exact emotional collapse was actually a spiritual reformatting. It was the moment your emotional operating system finally detached from external validation. That moment triggered heaven to begin restructuring the path ahead. The reason this truth was delayed is because if you were told this while still emotionally attached to that painful season, you would have assumed the trauma itself was destiny. But trauma was not destiny. Drama was interruption. Trauma was misdirection. Trauma was what life used to teach you the difference between being chosen and being used. When your old chapter collapsed, the spiritual realm did not see loss. The spiritual realm saw a final, if finally you let go. Finally, you stopped chasing false comfort. Finally, you stopped begging broken people to be whole. Finally, you stopped believing that your value depended on someone else's ability to see it. And that shift inside you is what triggered this delayed message to be scheduled for divine release. In this exact season, heaven needed one thing from you before this truth could be delivered: emotional detachment from self-sabotaging patterns. And now that you have reached that level, the truth is allowed to land with its full weight. You will soon look back and realize that your loneliness was not abandonment. Your loneliness was recalibration. You were being pulled out of everyone's emotional reach, so heaven could build you without interference. You were being reconfigured from the inside out. People left didn't take anything from you. They simply freed the space required for the blessing that is about to enter. The people who stopped communicating with you didn't reject you. They fulfilled their expiration date. The people who once acted like you weren't enough secretly were not capable of standing beside the version of you that is emerging now. Your spirit has grown so much in silence that even you don't realize how upgraded you've become. You don't react the same. You don't attach the same. You don't break the same. And because of this, the universe no longer delays the paths that were once blocked. There is an acceleration now happening without your permission, without your conscious effort, without your emotional strain. You are about to be guided into new rooms, new chapters, new alignments, new opportunities, new spiritual layers that you were never emotionally strong enough to carry before. There is a future version of you already existing, spiritually waiting to merge with your timeline in the physical. This was always the version heaven was trying to grow you into. The healed version of you, the aligned version of you, the emotionally stable version of you, the grounded version of you, the version of you who does not need anyone to choose them, because they finally choose themselves. This version is the reason this truth was delayed, because heaven needed you to meet this version before your destiny could unlock fully. And there is something else extremely important. You did not grow alone. Heaven placed invisible protection around your path. Archangel Michael has been walking ahead of you, clearing obstacles before you even reached them. Doors that were wrong for you were shut before you approached, so you wouldn't waste your time emotionally investing in temporary people. You were protected from spiritual traps, emotional manipulation, energetic parasites, and karmic cycles that would have drained decades of your life. You have no idea how many times the divine realm blocked what you thought you wanted, because it was never meant to be your future. This is why this message now is not just revelation. This message is the official confirmation that the delay period has ended. The spiritual embargo that paused your next chapter is now lifted. The divine hold on certain opportunities is now removed. The spiritual pause on your elevation timeline is now deactivated. You are entering the active manifestation phase now. Everything you prayed for when you were hurting is now going to start approaching you when you are healed. Because a blessing is only stable when the receiver has a stable identity. Now, before this part closes, understand this. Your next level requires you to be consistent with the identity you have earned through pain, not the identity you carried through survival. Growth has happened. Emotional evolution has happened. The version of you speaking inwardly now is not the version that once doubted their destiny. And that alone is why this revelation has arrived. Exactly. Now you finally became the version who could hold it without dropping it. The next part will be the final part of this entire heavy truth sequence. The ending revelation that ties every layer together and reveals what happens next. Now that this divine seal has been broken, my beloved child, this part begins at the final layer of this revelation. The point where everything you have experienced connects like a puzzle that suddenly makes complete sense. The delayed truth was never just about heartbreak, pain, betrayal, silence, isolation, or spiritual attack. The delayed truth was not even just about who was removed from your path. The delayed truth was about what heaven was preparing you to receive. A destiny that has weight, influence, and impact, meaning, and consequence. A destiny where every emotional scar becomes authority. A destiny where every loss becomes wisdom. A destiny where every cycle becomes memory, but not identity. You were never being punked. You were being protected because what it is becoming in your future holds more importance than what you endured in your past. And heaven was not going to let temporary situations contaminate a permanent divine outcome. Now, you are standing at a turning point where your timeline begins to evolve into a higher frequency reality. This is the moment where your identity shifts from survival to purpose. This is the moment where your inner story flips from pain to power. This is the moment where your spirit stops absorbing energy from the world and starts radiating energy into the world. You were not delayed because you were weak. You were delayed because heaven knew your strength needed to become stable. And now it finally is. You are no longer emotionally dependent. You are no longer spiritually confused. You are no longer mentally fragile. You are no longer stuck in cycles of self-doubt. You finally became someone who can carry the blessing you were always destined to receive. When heaven looked at you months ago, they saw potential. But when heaven looks at you today, they see readiness. This is why the seal has been broken in this season. This is why this message has reached you now. This is why Archangel Michael admits that the message was delayed. Because if you heard this before, you would have tried to bring your future blessing into a timeline that was still full of wounds, illusions, and emotional vulnerability. But now those old emotional anchors do not hold power over you anymore. You can finally see clearly without losing yourself in the fog of attachment. You can finally trust what is meant to be yours without fearing what isn't. The truth is heavy because it marks the end of an entire identity you once lived inside. The version of you that carried guilt, fear, overthinking, emotional overgiving, silent suffering, self-sacrifice just to keep peace and emotional attachment to what was only supposed to be temporary version of you has dissolved. And this revelation marks the beginning of the version that heaven protected all along. The version that leads, not follows. The version that receives, not chases. The version that aligns, not attaches. The version that tracks, not begs. The version that chooses with clarity, not with fear. And now here is the final truth that connects this entire message. Heaven delayed this message because your destiny is bigger than one person, one relationship, one situation, or one storyline. Your destiny is a calling that affects generations coming after you. Your destiny is an assignment that expands beyond emotional satisfaction. Your destiny is not a chapter. Your destiny is a legacy. Cannot be placed into the hands of someone who is still learning their worth. Legacy cannot be built on fragile emotions. Legacy cannot be formed through temporary attachment. Legacy needs a foundation that does not collapse under pressure. You have now become that foundation. Your next breakthroughs, connections, opportunities, and expansions will not come from desperation. They will come from alignment. They will not come from chasing. They will come from attracting. They will not come from emotional need. They will come from spiritual purpose. Your path ahead is not chaotic. Your path ahead is structured. Your path ahead is divinely protected and spiritually prepared. Every door that opens next will make sense. Every person who enters next will be aligned. Every opportunity that appears next will match the healed version of you. Nothing about what is coming will feel like struggle. Nothing about what is coming will feel like confusion. Nothing about what is coming will feel like emotional imbalance, because the blessing coming is not coming to fill a void. It is coming to expand a purpose. You are stepping into a phase where your intuition becomes your navigation. Your alignment becomes your shield. Your purpose becomes your direction, and your peace becomes your identity. People from your past will not understand how you changed this quickly because they did not see what heaven was shaping in silence. But that does not matter. Their understanding is no longer required. Your validation is now internal. Your clarity is now internal. Your foundation is now internal. From this point forward, every layer of your life begins moving in divine pace. Your future is already written. Your destiny is already activated. Your timeline is already shifting. The version of you that once tried to figure out the future using fear is gone. The version of you that now steps into the future using vision has arrived. And this final truth becomes the core message. You were delayed not because you were denied. You were delayed because what's coming is too valuable to be rushed. Now you walk forward without fear. Now, you walk forward without holding on to the past. Now you walk forward with confidence, because heaven has cleared the path ahead. This is where your new chapter begins. My beloved child, this part begins at the most delicate emotional corner of your destiny. The part nobody ever speaks about. The part no one ever acknowledges publicly. But this is the true center force, where everything in your future begins to take shape. Now that the seal has opened, there is a major energetic transition happening around you that will subtly shift the people you attract, the opportunities that rise toward you, the conversations that find you, and the choices that become visible in front of you. Something major began unlocking spiritually in the exact moment you finally believed you deserve better than pain. Destiny shifts the moment self-worth activates, and because this shift has activated inside your spirit, now the universe is beginning to mirror a new reality back toward you that you have never lived inside before. This next is thus something small or symbolic. This next phase is not a minor change in routine. This next phase is the part where life suddenly starts responding to your energy differently. You will begin to notice that you are drawing in experiences you once only imagined quietly inside your mind. You will begin to notice that the people who are entering your timeline carry cleaner energy, cleaner intentions, cleaner communication, cleaner emotional vibe. You will begin to notice that the kinds of situations you used to settle for don't attract you emotionally at all anymore. You will begin to notice that the kind of validation you used to crave simply does not have power over you anymore. You are stepping into a frequency where your value is no longer determined by external outcomes. You are stepping into a timeline where success is no longer tied to chaos or forced attachment. You are stepping into a season where blessings come through alignment, not struggle. This part is important because this is where heaven begins to show you how this truth transforms your actual reality. Destiny is not just emotional awakening. Destiny is behavior transformation. Destiny is decision transformation. Destiny is attention transformation. The way you think from this point forward will begin shaping your blessings faster than ever before. When the past version of you used to doubt whether you deserve miracles, it slowed everything down. When you used to question whether good things were allowed to happen for you, blessings had nowhere stable to land. But now your identity is stable. Now your energy is grounded. Now your spirit is positioned. And from this stable identity, every blessing heaven brings will now finally have a safe landing space inside your life. You will also begin to recognize something very surprising in this next phase. The old pain that once hurt you deeply will suddenly begin losing emotional impact. You will remember the story but not feel the wound. You will recall the event but not carry the emotional heaviness. You will see the memory like a movie, not like a scar. This is because emotional pain was not meant to follow you forever. Emotional pain was meant to refine you, not imprison you. And now that refinement has completed itself, the reason this part had to be delayed until after all previous layers were revealed is because this is the part where your soul now becomes free from your old emotional identity permanently. Another deep truth about this next phase is this: your aura is becoming stronger. Your spiritual boundary is becoming harder to penetrate. Your emotional center is becoming harder to influence negatively. People who once could trigger you easily will no longer have that power. People who once could affect your mood within seconds will not be able to shift your emotional energy anymore. Your grounded presence will become intimidating to anyone who once relied on your flexibility to manipulate your feelings. This is why your future requires you to protect your emotional space with more discipline now than ever before. Because the blessings heading towards you are not temporary elevation. They are long-term recalibration. And here is the deeper side to all of this. Now that heaven has lifted the delay, your future will start arriving in waves, not drops. You are taught you will receive signs in clusters. You will receive confirmations repeatedly. You will hear specific phrases or specific themes repeating around you for no logical reason. You will notice people speaking to you in ways that directly match the inner direction your intuition already whispered. You will notice synchronicities happening rapidly. These are not coincidences. They are alignment signals. They are frequency confirmations. This is also why your spiritual sensitivity will rise. Now you will become more aware of energetic motives before people speak. You will feel people's intentions before they express anything. You will observe emotional dishonesty without needing to argue for clarity. You will pick up emotional truths silently, presence and energetic vibration. This is because your intuition had been blocked earlier by emotional attachment and old trauma residue. Now that both are healed, your intuition has regained its full operational strength. And with this intuitive strength, the universe is preparing to guide you toward divine partnership, divine purpose alignment, divine wealth pathways, divine mission activation, and divine opportunity cycles. This is not just emotional shift. This is life architecture shift. Your next decisions, your next emotional choice. All of these will be guided by your higher identity, not your past wounds. In this next phase, people will start recognizing you differently without you changing anything externally, because something internal is radiating a completely new vibration. This next timeline is where your destiny becomes visible. This next timeline is where your potential becomes recognized. This next timeline is where your spiritual preparation becomes rewarded. There will be moments soon where you will pause and ask yourself quietly, how did all of this start happening so fast? And the answer will trace back to the moment your delayed truth finally reached you and activated the identity you were always meant to become. Before we continue into the final closing micro layer in the next part, I will highlight this for your audience engagement requirement here in part 10, because this is the part where people realize they are not alone in their transition. Share this message forward so others who are mentally healing understand their delay was not punishment. Comment your alignment here, because the universe responds to declaration, and subscribe to ensure you remain connected to this continuous spiritual guidance that will keep your path clear. Now prepare for the final revelation part next, because that final layer is where we close the entire cycle and unlock the final truth behind what heaven is positioning you to step into next permanently. My beloved child, this final moment is simple but life-changing. Now you understand why the delay protected you. Now you stand in the timeline that was always meant to be yours. From this moment forward, you walk as someone who no longer fears losing anything, because nothing meant for you can ever be taken again. What is coming toward you next is not accident, not chance, not coincidence. It is destiny arriving on schedule. You are ready. You are aligned. You are finally in position. This is your new beginning, and this time you will not break. You will rise.